Um, Welcome in. AJ Edelman is an Olympic athlete and a genius, but has such a big heart. And I want you to address the kind of macro historical. But first, I want you to share because again, I so appreciate your heart. How you feel watching the scenes of the hostages coming home.
Um, I think that it's very hard to put into context what the feeling is because it hasn't happened before. So I think that the closest I mean, Israel has never had a situation in which you have just mass amounts of hostages being held for such a long time, and uh, resulting in a massive, for Israel, it's a massive undertaking the last couple of years. I think it's just general elation that not only is this suddenly drawing or starting to come to an end, but somewhat of a bit of a punch drunk feeling at the moment because um, the going uh, no one really thought that they would be able to get all the hostages out in time, right? Or
Yeah.
that they'd be able to get them all in one fell swoop. The going knowledge, everyone thought that it was going to be a situation which it was a slow bleed for a very long time. And that was the only way that Hamas was going to be able to hold any sort of cards was to slowly bleed out the hostage issue. This suddenness at which the release of 20 living and the rest who will come home is something that has caught the society off guard in a very good and proper way. I'd say that the feeling is extremely celebratory, but also incredibly dismayed. It's dismayed at there's internal reflection. How are we going to say, what are we going to do moving forward? Israel has a social compact, a social contract with the people, with the families that are conscripted into service. That if you're that no matter who is taken and no matter what time, Israel stops at nothing to bring them home. That has resulted in some devastating consequences, particularly in this war, as to how the war is executed. So the war was executed over a long period of time, 2 years. It was executed in a manner that was house by house. It was going door to door, resulting in a lot of casualties for which a lot of other militaries would not have taken. A lot of militaries would have just used the air superiority, turned the place immediately to rebel in the first few months, and just have tried to been done with it. This sort of door to door really wore out Israeli society. So it's very hard to contextualize again the joy at which they're feeling, but it's also somewhat of an exhaustion, an internal reflection. How is this going to happen in the future? Because you can't, the incentivization of hostage taking is there now. It is really enshrined into releasing. I think at one point the numbers were 70 life sentence individuals for a single hostage. It just can't continue that way because it encourages further hostage taking. So that's one. The second is there is a sense that the Middle East is realigning, and there is a small silver lining in what has gone on the last 2 years, which is if you take a look at the situation and what has occurred, there's been a radical realignment in the Middle East, both in how Israel operates, where they strike, how contained they are, as well as just the general security apparatus. So you have Lebanon somewhat more safer with Hezbollah being literally castrated. You have Syria looking like it's becoming a bit of a safer option there. The Houthis are now a little bit more in check. Hamas has been absolutely gutted from top to bottom. Israel made it very clear that they were going to strike Hamas targets even in Qatar if things didn't turn out. 2 years ago, all of these would have been considered impossibilities, right? Keeping it really taking apart Hezbollah, which was viewed as a huge terror organization, far more advanced than Hamas, well armed, well funded, backed by Iran, a whole foothold in the country of Lebanon. I think so. There's just a lot of feelings today. First and foremost will be the joy. It's still the Jewish holiday, and they're going to finish that out. But it's soon to give way, and I think it's starting to feel like it's soon to give way to a reflection here of what happens in the future should this happen, because it is not unlikely that this sort of event or episode will be retried again
Yeah.
by
Okay, I
various
want to
groups who.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
I mean, I think your point is extremely well taken, but the hostage taking has been a tool in the Palestinian toolbox for half a century. I mean, remember, the Munich athletes were taken hostage, and then I mean, the idea was to take them hostage, not to kill them. They were going to try to use them as bargaining chips. And obviously, Entebbe, a plane load of Israelis was taken off. This is a 50-year practice, asymmetrical warfare, using your tools to hand. So go after civilians who are unarmed in places where they are not protected. See what you can do to get them, or individual soldiers who pop up in places they shouldn't be, or are exposed, as was the case with Gilad Shalit and some others, Ron Arad. What's happened here is that what you want, AJ, and that Jonathan Conricus, the military spokesman who was the spokesman at the beginning of the war, has brought up, is what Israel needs to do is to say, this will never happen again. And we are creating a new military doctrine that ensures that anybody who thinks that they can use this technique will be met with overwhelming force. So don't even try it. But that announcement of that doctrine, which I think will happen almost explicitly, would have no teeth had it not been for the last 2 years. What matters is that after the hostages were taken, Israel went to war, hasn't killed off Hamas. It has defeated Hamas in a war, and it has gotten back the lion's share of the people who were taken hostage. And therefore, they have shown that they are willing to spend 2 years in the face of unbelievable pressure from world elite public opinion about and slanderous accusations of commissions of genocide and deliberate starvation and the murder of children and the blowing up of hospitals, all of which were lies, but nonetheless retailed very successfully. They put their heads down. Bibi, pretty much everybody who doesn't like Bibi, it doesn't matter. The country put its head down and said, we are going through this. And remember, on October 8th, Bibi said, 2023 said, we are going to destroy Hamas and we're going to get all the hostages back. And we all said, I mean, you got to say that. He has to say that. Obviously, he has to say all the hostages are going to get back and we're going to destroy Hamas. A, he probably can't really destroy Hamas. And B, he's not really going to get all the hostages back or any of the hostages back. He hasn't gotten all the hostages back. Okay, they're not all back. I don't know how many have been killed. Can't remember what the number is, 80 or something like that. But the idea was he was creating unreachable goals. But he had to do it because this is what the country needed to hear. And goddamn if he didn't do it. And the country wasn't behind him. 70% of Israel said they would accept a unilateral ceasefire and an ending of the war to get the hostages back. And all of world opinion was against him and said that Israel had somehow turned into the aggressor in a war that it did not start. And the only way out for him was through. The only way out for Israel was through. And the amount of pressure, also from the Biden people in 2024, the amount of pressure that he had to withstand and that the Israeli military had to withstand and that the Israeli strategic approach to this war had to withstand, I don't know that anybody on earth would have been able to withstand it. I mean, you just think about what it's like to get criticized if you write something and people say something nasty about it on Twitter and then you get all upset. Like, this is a man with the entire body of world elite opinion coming at him, wanting to arrest him. Israelis are trying to throw him in jail. People are calling him a genocider. The general approach for somebody like Bibi is to sue for peace. Is to say, no, I'm an okay guy. Really, I am. I just want peace just like everybody else. Let's try to make peace. To be fair, Israel would say then, okay, Biden has a ceasefire plan. We'll accept the contours of it. That's what they said in June 2024. Hamas said no. Hamas said no 8 times to American proposed plans that involved ceasefire first and then some hostages back with a negotiation for more levels of ceasefire. He just kept at it, and by doing so, and in the course of that time, hitting Hezbollah, hitting Iran, hitting the Houthis, hitting gutter. All of that, the Syrian regime collapsing, all of this, the deterrence that he has established, so that who's going to take a hostage? Do you want to face this military that has just spent 2 years showing what it is willing, capable, and able to do? If you take one of its people, the entire country is like, you get that guy back. I don't care what it takes. It's an amazing accomplishment for a country that has spent half a century with the beast on its back of being the one place on earth where where enemies routinely take citizens hostage as a means of asymmetrical war.
So agree on many points. I'll disagree on the final point about the legitimacy as a tactic in future military conflicts between whoever pops up on the Palestinian side versus Israel in terms of taking hostages. It should be noted that this was possible at the end of the day with a very understanding U.S. administration on the back end. And
vital, without question.
Absolutely key. Israel would absolutely never have struck Qatar if Harris was president. I'm quite sure of it. I do think that many of the moves that we've seen since Trump took office, or at least since it became clear that Biden was not going to win re-election, that includes the beeper stuff and things that went on there, it softened the ground. And so in the future, if you have a more hostile U.S. administration, let's say that the economy tanks, which is very, very possible in the next few years, that the economy just, it's a huge bubble right now. The economy tanks, and the prevailing wisdom is that the party in power gets punished when the economy tanks. So you have an AOC type presidency. Very possible. She's very popular in the primaries, or in, would be very, very popular in the primaries. I do think that the hostage taking tactic is not off the table.
It's never off the table. That's
right,
why it's in the Torah. It's literally in the foundational documents of the Jewish people.
For sure,
Jews are uniquely susceptible to having their populations taken captive, and that they're supposed to ransom for them.
Completely agree, but this is sort of one of those situations where it's like someone misses a goal and it's like 2 more inches to the left they would have made the goal, but 2 more inches to the right it would have been wide, right? Really wide. This could have gone either way. Hamas came incredibly close to getting what it wanted. Right? It really nearly held out. If it had gotten the other administration, it probably could have held out. It got a bunch of recognitions from states that don't matter on the world stage in terms of what they wanted, but Hamas initially got a lot of what they wanted. And when you say, like, do they go through the whole rigmarole of dealing with an army that's going to do this? Israel was internally really fractured over these last couple of years in terms of it continuing, and things change all the time on the ground. If I'm a group like Hamas or whoever replaces Hamas, and I know that every single time I start a war, my domestic approval goes through the roof, right? Like it's the number one way to shore up your political bona fides is to attack Israel, is to take some hostages, attack Israel, get some life sentence people, released from jail. I still think that if Bibi goes, or when Bibi goes, and you have a softer prime minister, you have a softer U.S. administration, this hostage taking is going to go right back on the table in a serious way. So Israel needs to have some sort of internal. I think there needs to be an internal referendum. There needs to actually be something binding that doesn't make it a leadership top brass sort of decision. Of the country itself needs to state, this is no longer the policy. It cannot be a military. It cannot be a military decision, right? Because the military is always at the whim of a civilian government, and those governments are always at the whim of the political pressure. And with a more hardline U.S. administration against Israel, I think that pressure really would have won out at some point.
Cozy Earth, I went to the Packers game, first time to Lambeau Field this weekend, and my friend who came with me had bought his first pair of Cozy Earth pants based on the recommendations I've made here, and he wore them to the game. He hadn't worn them. He brought them with him to a Green Bay, and he took them out and he put them on for the game. And basically, it was a big mistake on my part because he didn't talk much about the game. He just talked about the pants. Cozy Earth pants. He said these, Mark, you undersold these, so comfortable. Same with the sheets. Now he's going to go buy the sheets because he said if their pants are this good, I have to assume, Mark, you're right about the sheets. Comfortable stuff. It's comfortable, keeps you cool when you want to be cool, keeps you warm when it's cold. It wasn't cold at the game, by the way. It was warm. Also, the bubble cuddle blanket, also available now. All of these things can be purchased on the Cozy Earth website, cozyearth.com, for 20% off if you use the code two-way. Go to cozyearth.com, buy the pants, the sheets, the blankets. It's all good stuff because home isn't just where you live, it's how you feel. Let's go home with Cozy Earth, all available now.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America.
And don't forget, you can now listen to the morning meeting and two-way tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.